I'm back in the ring again. I'm going to open up another New Japan Pro Wrestling figure from Super7 of the Ace, Hiroshi Tanahashi. Yeah, checking out the Ace. He's coming with the IWGP Intercontinental Championship. Just check out how this figure stacks up to other wrestling figures and the Okada we already opened up, which you can check out in another video. It's got a little bio on the back, very small. So let's just get it opened up. Yes. Got a flying V guitar, usually known for his air guitar. Here's a nice prop one, kind of for an entrance thing. Flying V guitar, very fitting for Tanahashi. Nice. Plethora of hands. Again, it's got the tape, but it's not painted, so that's kind of like, big time missing detail. But all these same shapes and things of Okada, I believe, they are all the same. Get this other head out. Like the kind of coloring of the hair there. Oh, the eyes are a little strange here, kind of a little too cutesy looking or something, but he's got the smile there. I guess what I didn't notice from opening Okada is the heads are numbered 1 and 2. So for Okada's head, the number 1 head sits lower and the number 2 head sits higher for the entrance gear. So he's up above the entrance gear, which makes no sense to me because I feel like it should just fit without changing a head. So the thing is with Okada, they're like almost the same expression. Tanahashi here, he's got a smiling face and a non-smiling face. Let's see which is which here with the heads. His jacket is a lot stiffer material than Okada's softer. Good shape there. I mean, it's still very pliable. It's not going to be too stiff for you for the most part. Nice fuzz. I like the pattern. His tights have all his decals. I would have liked something more than a fairly black and white attire from Tanahashi. Usually has like some red and blue and everything mixed in with that, but I would have probably picked a different attire for him. The belt, of course, a little more simplified than the real thing. I think the problem is the gold they've chosen. Here's the IWGP Heavyweight title that Okada came with. I think the problem is the shade of gold that they went with, because here, Okada's necklace, this shade of gold, that's what they should have went with for the title. The belt one's too yellow, and this is a more realistic gold to me. That's what's kind of making the titles look strange. And another problem with the title belts, alright, we can see the pegs are all the way through there. Once I pull this off, free the title belt, it's going to be very difficult to put back on because they were so soft, the pegs. And what I'm noticing for the Intercontinental belt here is that they have painted or coated the strap. Here it's black. They didn't use a white material, they've coated it in paint. And that's not going to be good because I can already see some of it chipping off. If you kind of look close here on these pegs. I mean, the pegs aren't going to be seen much by you, but if it can chip there, it can chip anywhere. So that's not good. What I liked about these figures is you were getting the characters and you were getting the championship belts of New Japan. The plates and stuff are nice, but just kind of wrong pieces, like the wrong color gold. You're painting the strap. That's not a good idea. But getting this closed again is going to be freaking impossible. I mean, you can do it, but I feel like, especially with this painted one, I'm going to end up damaging it to get it closed again. Yeah. I mean, this is without a figure in between to close it, and it's very hard to do. But I'm glad they went with the white strap one there. It's pretty cool. Just to give a range of motion that the head doesn't really do a ton of tilting or anything, but of course it can turn all the way. The arms, very, very mobile. Can pretty much do everything that you could possibly want. The torso here can only go so far back, so far forward, not too bad. The leg range here, you know, kind of getting stopped about here. The knee isn't that great. They're just pretty standard knee, although you get swivel underneath the knee, so I can help position a little better. But then just straight foot, like so, with a little ankle pivoting there, if needed. Oh, and side to side a little bit. Weakest part is just the knee, that it just bends, and it's like, well. Also, you can't really bring the leg forward very much, just the way this is. Tanahashi, let's note the way his neck height is here with this head. And we'll pop that, and it is head 1. This is head 2. And you might notice it is a little bit lower. So this is the one that's supposed to be used without the jacket. I don't understand. The jacket on or off should work with the neck height. People don't change their neck height because they're wearing clothes. So I kind of get it that you want like, oh, yep. But I would rather have the more realistic one like this. But what you can do with this, do not despair. This can help adjust some of the height. So you can use the taller head on Okada because he's actually very tall. He would be taller than Tanahashi. So here's the lower setting head on Tanahashi. And so you can get a little bit of the height difference that way. Because otherwise I feel like if we put this head on, he's going to be just as tall as Okada. Let's see. It's close there. Try the other one. I think this one definitely sits lower. So again, that's going to help some of the height. Tanahashi's actually going to be a little shorter than Okada. You have the taller head on him. I don't know how that's going to even out with everybody, but it's too bad. I kind of like this expression here on this one, or just the face more, because the eyes and everything look better. But this is for the tall one, and it's marked number 1. The shorter head is marked number 1 for Okada, so there's no numbering. You can't go by the number of which one is which. But it looks like the shorter head is the smiling for Tanahashi. I just think the eye, something looks weird about it. It looks kind of crazy. Although he looks a little more bored with this one, but see how there's more neck here, much less neck with this. So his sleeve thing, which I understand if that can't really be its own piece, so that is painted on. Pretty excusable there. This jacket is really awesome. Like, the material, I can't believe they're totally different materials for two different guys like that. So I think what you're really paying for here is this. The figure clothing is super top notch the way this is. Really good. I think the only real problem is this skin tone is not particularly all that natural or realistic to the real wrestler. I don't feel like they just don't have this super tan complexion, really. There's the no ring attire on, so you can see all the body and musculature there. Of course, they have the interchangeable hands, so here he just has his fists. Again, I probably would have went with a different attire because he's had way more colorful, crazy attires, but I guess that would be more expensive for them to make. But I did pay quite the price for this figure, so I feel like super colorful attire should have been well worth the price. We have all the laces on the boot. I kind of like the shiny. It's a little glossier for the kind of more plasticky boot he would wear versus the tights, so that is pretty nice. So again, for height, you can kind of give the taller guy the taller head, since they're doing that weird trick. Let's go ahead and compare. Here's a WWE Elite figure of Finn Balor, or Prince Devitt as he would have been when he's fighting Tanahashi in New Japan. They're the exact same height in real life. So here we can see the New Japan figures are maybe just a tiny bit big, but I was thinking they were going to be too big. I thought they were going to be 7-inch figures versus 6-inch figures. So it's actually way closer than I thought it would be. Here's a body paint Balor there too, just to compare more. It's funny, Hiroshi Tanahashi's the one that Devitt kind of challenged to bring himself up to main event level. That's why I like to have that in my collection also, just to go with this same time period of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Here is the Storm Collectibles Jushin Liger. He should actually be a few inches under Tanahashi, but Storm Collectibles doesn't really do scale very much. They're just kind of the design in appearance, so he's a little bit shorter, but just not quite enough. It's more the problem that these bodies on Storm Collectibles are just too big, too thick, versus the leanness here on a little bit more realistic for the Super 7. But again, I like to have all the characters, I mean, these are guys that all fought with each other, against each other, and everything in the time that I was watching New Japan a lot more than the occasional show now. The old rival of Tanahashi here, and Nakamura. Nakamura should be a little taller. But again, in figure world, an inch is fairly small here. So the fact that they're reasonably equal is actually not a detriment, because a few inches in real life is even smaller in the figure world. They still size up okay. I would still say these lean on the too tall side, but just almost hardly even noticeable. And again, when you're using the heads, that if I put this head on him, he's going to be too tall, so we can use this nice smiling face and get a little more accurate height. So that's awesome to see those two together. Again, here, like, this is the skin tone I would say that Okada and Tanahashi probably have more closely than, the Devitt. Just very tan. We have a AEW Unrivaled Kenny Omega. You can see he's very light skinned, but I feel like the range here, there's this very, very tan. So I think with the AEW figures, I think this is the first series, so I think there's something about the height is maybe a little too tall. So Omega is kind of, he is supposed to be taller than Tanahashi. Maybe that works to his benefit that he's a little taller in this series, because here I don't think he's quite taller than the figure. But again, these are sizing up better than I thought. So this is pretty great for a Tanahashi. I think this head, my eye, I don't know if all the eyes on this particular head look like this, but this head just kind of looks more like him to me, even though he is kind of known for his kind of more smiley, kind of role model hero kind of character that he was. Usually I'm a contrarian about who's popular and who I like, and a lot of times the main event of wrestling I don't care for quite as much as some other people, but probably around 2010 or 11 I started watching New Japan shows, and that's really when Tanahashi was, had the title and kind of really setting up the way he is, even to this day of making this video anyway. And I really liked that he was the one that just kind of had the classic Puriso style, just pro wrestling style. He didn't have all the, look at all my MMA moves and holds and strikes. I mean, he just had the pro wrestling stuff, the suplexes. I mean, his finished stuff is even, the crossbody or just the big splash, the high fly flow. So him as kind of the world champ, I always kind of associate that with Tanahashi and New Japan Pro Wrestling. He's the ace. He's the measuring stick. He's the one that goes out and does the work in the ring and out of the ring to kind of promote and connect with fans more and all that. But then he's also able to, take, not the heavyweight title, but just the title right below there, the Intercontinental, and he did a lot with that title. And as of making this video, he's the never openweight champion, which is kind of just hard to explain. It's kind of a lower title, but just more about the matches and the attitude of the fights and things. That's just kind of it's going to allow him to work with newer wrestlers that aren't the heavyweight championship contenders. So he's kind of in that realm now as the veteran guy, kind of going with all these new wrestlers and talent and challengers and things with that title. And we'll get to see that title when we open up the Stone Pitbull later, so watch for that video. Get subscribed and whatnot. I think for this one, I just wish they would have done maybe a different attire, but this jacket is freaking great, and that's probably how I'll be displaying these, because the strange problems here and there there's no bad paint apps on Tanahashi that I see. Everything's really smooth, but there's like some weird stuff on Okada, and the skin tone is a little strange. And I'll probably use the title belts on other figures just to help kind of mesh my New Japan and / wrestling collection together, because Okada looks plenty decked out here with just his entrance gear without the championship, and I think Tanahashi will look the same. His really nice entrance jacket. That's what was always cool about, getting the championship belts with the figures, is you can put it on your other figures. You don't have to display it with the one that it comes with. A good way to display him with the back, where it has a really good design and everything. Kind of like this head a little more, just for the expression. This kind of looks like a crazy smile. Now, this is the one that's supposed to be used with the jacket anyway, because it's allegedly making him taller. So I might just go with that with my collection, just because it's kind of display them with their entrance gear and everything, just because it makes them look even more like the wrestler. I think the likenesses are plenty good. I mean, they don't have that photo printing kind of technology, which you would think they would be able to do for the much higher price these figures are. But without that, they look pretty dang accurate. And they are kind of special order, although I feel like New Japan should be relatively popular enough to have a normal figure line, but here we are. Tanahashi is kind of one of the guys that helped that New Japan company kind of come out of a rut there, and he's kind of a rising star with like Nakamura and several others that are still there and making that show kind of an international success at this point. People are able to get and watch other countries' shows easier and easier, instead of importing videotapes or always having to download. Streaming makes it a lot easier and things. And of course, I always like to mention the Fire Pro Wrestling World game has New Japan downloadable wrestlers and things. So Tanahashi's in there. He's definitely one of the top stars in that pack, and it just makes it more fun to play with in that game, because it has all his real attire and real face and all his moves, and there's a move creator, and people have made even more moves for him, so he's super decked out with all his very specific moves and gestures and things, including the air guitar. But for this figure, we can have the real guitar, which is probably better hands than what I just put on him to hold it, but They'll be the ones with the tape that you can really kind of grip really good, but it'll have that unpainted like tape design on it. Not great, but these ones hold it pretty well to him. I'm gonna pose him with his guitar just for really cool entrance stuff, especially since I'm probably gonna take his title away and put it on, you know, another wrestler or something. I mean, I don't know who I would put it on, but but for me, these are living up to some hype here. There's a few things where I'm kind of like, really? For what I paid, this is, you know, the unpainted or just the heads sitting where I don't understand that decision. They should just always, but at least you can choose. So you can do kind of height things and pick and choose and all this. That is still nice. I think, you know, the entrance gear, these attires are actually printed pretty nice. The likeness is there, even though they're not using the facial printing, as far as I know anyway. I'm going to open up all the New Japan Pro Wrestling Super 7 figures here, so get subscribed. I open up all my wrestling figures and things that I get now, kind of explain how and why I'm collecting them, and I open up all my other collectibles here, so I'll definitely be seeing you in the next video. And I love you, as Tanahashi would say. Did I just put this hand on backward? Here we go. Go Ace. My title!